What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Cryptid Saturday, and in today's Cryptid Saturday, we are going over the cryptids of Rhode Island. We are pretty deep into the states. We've almost got through all 50 of them, so if you guys have been along for the ride this far, I just want to say thank you very much. For those of you that are new, this is honestly the longest series I've ever actually done on my channel, where I'm going through some cryptids of all 50 states. And today we are up to Rhode Island. So I've got 3 articles, 3 different cryptids, a honorable mention, which I'm just letting you guys know right now. It was Bigfoot. There was just so many articles about it that I just couldn't pick one. So I just said honorable mention, Bigfoot exists in Rhode Island. So we'll tag that up on the Bigfoot counter and go ahead and hop into the rest of these articles. Number 1, the Block Ness Monster. Block Island. I always need to double check to make sure I spell it correctly, and it's not as if it was named for Robert Block. Has plenty of ghost stories and even a few tales of witchcraft, but as far as I know, it did not have an associated sea monster legend until the summer of 1996. That is when 2 sailors on board the fishing boat Mad Monk pulled a 14-foot long, cartilaginous and snake-like skeleton from the waters off of the island, which is part of Rhode Island, from which it sits 14 miles off its coast. The pair hauled their remains back to shore and displayed them on some rocks along the harbor shore. Soon, the remains were drawing a crowd, strange cross-promotional deals, and even a cocktail named for it. One of the onlookers who came to examine the remains is a New York State biologist and friend of one of the sailors who agreed to store the remains in a freezer, from which the creature's remains vanish at some point from June of 1996 to 1998. All that remains are the memories and souvenirs. Most experts think that the monster was nothing more than the rotten fragments of a basking shark. As the skull and spine are the most durable part, they can look rather serpentine once most of the body has rotted away. The Zuiomaru carcass is thought to be a larger basking shark less far along in its decay. And I'm sorry if I get these pronunciations wrong, guys. I try my best, but sometimes they're just kind of hard. This fish is too rotten even for jambalaya. So realistically, when it comes to blobsters like that, a lot of times they are just decaying whales, and because whales are mostly blubber decays kind of strangely. So it's not exactly what you would expect, because the seawater interferes with it, and it can make it look like it's not even a whale, or a shark, or a dolphin, or something larger than what you would think it is. So they were probably right, to be honest with you. It probably was some kind of basking shark, or maybe some kind of a whale. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Sea monster of Teddy Beach. At first glance, Rhode Island appears to perhaps be one of the most ordinary states in the US so far, as there does not appear to be too much unexplained things that have happened there, or even really any cryptids at all for that matter. And man, is that true. It was really hard to find these 3, which isn't too surprising considering the small size of the state. If anything were there, one would think that it would not be too hard to find. Many other states in the US have much more vast wilderness a part of it, which are the places that tend to get cryptid and other unusual reputations surrounding. One of the most visible things that is perhaps of an unexplained nature that occurs in the state is that about a sea serpent that may have attacked a woman who was out swimming at a place called Teddy's Beach, which is found in Portsmouth, which the beach being on Saconnet River. The story was exclusively reported by the Providence WPRI Channel 12 News in 2007, so there is a great likelihood you haven't heard about it. Basically, the story is that a woman was out simply relaxing and floating around on her back in the ocean when suddenly, out of nowhere, a massive water-dwelling beast of unknown origin attacks her, swimming around her in menacing fashion. The woman first noticed something was up when she was startled by an odd hissing sound, and then after that she witnessed a great face push out of the water near to her, describing it as also having big teeth, a basketball-shaped face, and the woman also described it as having scaly skin as it brushed up against her due to being so close. The woman then yelled for her fiancé to come and save her, which he then went on to describe whipping the woman away from the beast and yelling at her to swim back to shore. The man then also witnessed the creature swimming around him, with him describing it as gigantic and also described it raising its head out of the water, where the man described it having layers of large fangs. Some of the other witnesses on the beach believed that a leg injury from another man may have attracted the creature due to how much he was bleeding. The original woman who first witnessed the creature in the water was very traumatized by the event, enough to go see a counselor, and her fiance also complained of bad dreams of being attacked since the incident. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, why these people didn't think that was a shark or a dolphin or even a sea turtle is kind of beyond me. Honestly, it kind of has all the hallmarks of one of those things. It's probably, if they didn't see a fin, it probably wasn't a shark, and because sharks can't swim without their fins. Dolphins are kind of the same thing, but their fins aren't quite as pronounced as sharks are. And as far as like a turtle goes, I mean, that would explain the weird irregularities in the water. And if you guys have ever seen the inside of a leatherback sea turtle's mouth, it is truly horrendous. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys a picture of it real quick. This is what the inside of a leatherback sea turtle's mouth looks like. So you could totally see where if that thing is swimming around because they've attracted something or they're swimming in the water and this thing is just kind of swimming around looking for food and it just pops its head up, there goes the weird scaly appearance, and then it just opens its mouth and this man sees this. I'm sorry, that's nightmare fuel for anybody, and these things are legitimately out there. Now that what that is actually for is so they can swallow, because they can't chew, right? So they swallow their prey, which is essentially jellyfish, squid, things like that. And they'll swallow their prey and it goes into their mouth, right? But now they have a bunch of seawater in their mouth. So then what they do is they basically push all the seawater back out of their mouths. But what these things do is it allow the food to kind of stay in place every time they do that. So it's not like they're not teeth. They're kind of just fleshy things. But you could kind of see where if a person didn't know that they could misconstrue these things as teeth. But anyway, though, so you guys can kind of see where I would say that it's like some kind of ocean creature, though. But let me know what you guys think it could have been in the comments down below. Number 3, a vampire. Next up is the vampire legend of the Brown family, which is something you may well know if you come from the state, as it is one of their most well-known legends. Coming from the late 1800s, the Brown family lived in the village of Exeter in the state, and many of those villagers noticed an oddity about the family, in that many of them kept getting sick and dying. Despite originally being perfectly healthy, the doctors of the time called the disease consumption, which we know nowadays was likely tuberculosis. The head of the family was a farmer called George Brown, and it begun with his wife Mary Brown dying in 1883. If that was bad enough, this was followed by his 20-year-old daughter Mary Olive Brown also getting ill and soon dying only 6 months later. But it still didn't end there. Over the next several years, George Brown's 19-year-old daughter, Mercy Brown, and his teenage son, Edwin Brown, also became quickly ill and died. Much superstition of the time had many believed that this consumption disease was caused by vampires, and the villagers became suspicious that someone in the Brown family could possibly be a vampire, which is why they kept getting ill and dying. In March 1892, a group of villagers entered into the Chestnut Hill Cemetery after concluding that one of the dead was actually a vampire who left the grave in the night to suck life from relatives of the Brown family, leading to them becoming ill and dying. The villagers planned to put an end to this vampire. They started by exhuming the graves of George Brown's wife and his 2 daughters. The examination of the wife and daughter, Mary, showed they were decomposing at a normal rate and as such were not vampires. But then the body of Mercy Brown was dug up and something odd was supposedly discovered. Despite being buried for 2 months, they found that the body of Mercy Brown was still well preserved and that her hair and nails had also appeared to have grown. And upon prodding the body, fresh blood apparently seeped out, leading them to believe that she was the vampire. The villagers removed Mercy's heart and burned it on a nearby rock. Edwin Brown at this point was still alive but very unwell, and so the villagers added the ashes from the heart to Edwin's medicine in an attempt to save him, but he still ended up dying. The legend led to Rhode Island being dubbed the vampire capital of the US, and the state has several other vampire legends associated with it around the same time period as the Brown family one. Yeah, people were very superstitious back in the day, and honestly, you can't really blame them. People were kind of just dropping dead and dying from a lot of weird things, especially back in the 1800s. To explain a little bit on what most likely went on with the Mercy Brown body that they exhumed and then kind of desecrated her corpse and then fed her to her father. Oh man, this is gonna be kind of a hard one, guys. Anyway, so what happens when you die, okay, is you die. Rigor mortis sets in. When rigor mortis sets in, your skin and everything tightens, right? So that means your lips kind of get pulled further back. Your head, which actually has space and stuff for your hair, sinks in a lot. And what that does is it actually causes your hair to kind of grow out a little bit more. And your hair doesn't get any longer than it was when you were alive. It's just your skin shrinks around it. That also makes your teeth look like they get longer, and it makes your nails look like they're growing. And what happened was is people would dig up these bodies not knowing that, and it looks like they're still alive. Now, in her case, if they found actual fresh blood in her veins, what probably happened was is her casket was probably under really good circumstances for preservation. Kind of like had they just left her alone, if anyone would have dug her up, she probably would have been more mummified than decomposed. So they kind of stumbled along that is most likely what happened. But still though, some people actually out there do consider themselves to be vampires. So vampire is itself is kind of like a real thing. But I do believe that that was the case for poor Mercy and her poor father, who I can't imagine him surviving the tuberculosis, but they kind of fed him his daughter, so he may not wanted to kind of gone on after that. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about that extremely strange story in the comments section down below. And while you're down there, guys, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me, and join us next Saturday for Cryptid Saturdays, and I will see you in the next video.